Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio Music Production. This is lesson 2.27, and as I promised, this is our project description lesson. So if you've gone through and watched all these videos, I hope you feel comfortable and confident to the point where you can actually take some tracks and begin DJing them and playing them back live inside of Bitwig Studio. Those could be your own tracks. It could be, fully mixed and mastered tracks like we're working with here. Really, there's not a whole lot of rules to what I want you to do here other than just work on performing back live and coming up with a system that works for you. So it could be as basic as taking full-length tracks and just going, okay, here's my track 1, here's track 2, here's track 3, here's track 4, and just mixing between tracks like that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. You could take it a step further and you can maybe break those tracks out into particular loop regions that sound good, kind of like what I've done here. And then you can, mix and match and play around with song form and, do what you want to do. So maybe you like the drums in one track and you really like the pad sequence in another track. If you have your loops and you've stretched properly, you should be able to play those two back, no problem at all. You could even take it a much further step if, for example, you wanted to and you were getting into a particular genre. Let's just say, for example, we're really into deep house at the moment, and we've made like 10-15 deep house drum loops, we've made 10-15 bass lines, lead lines, etc., etc. What we could do is we could pull and bring all of those up, create some audio tracks like this, arrange all of our drums in here, arrange the bass lines in here, arrange the stabs in here, maybe we have some effects in there, some vocals maybe, some additional ear candy, and this is just going to be miscellaneous, so I'm not sure what's going in that category. But what you could do then is load this all up, assuming you've got everything stretched properly and you've got good loops, and you could build and perform live tracks right there on the fly. And that's kind of the power of this program over anything else. That, and we can build our own effects devices and chains and all sorts of fun stuff that in other programs, we're kind of limited by what it ships with or what's built into it, what's built into the hardware. Now, for some people, having all the choices can really be a curse, and you need to know when to stop and say, okay, this is the effect I'm going to use, and let's start practicing performing live. I know I personally can get really bogged down in trying to get my effects just like I want them, and then I've wasted 3.5 hours where I probably could have practiced my live set for a couple of those hours, and people out there listening aren't going to care that much that your reverb is set just right. They want to listen to your mix as a whole. And that brings me to one final kind of closing point, which is repetition is very, very important when it comes not only to mixing, but also to learning this software. So what I'm going to do, and you're not going to hear from me for a few days, I've got some other things to do, but I'm also going to be working on a live set. And I'm going to take what I've done and I'm going to totally delete it, and I'm just going to start over and build up from scratch. When you're learning in a new software, that can be really, really helpful. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. And in a few days, I'll come back with a completed product. We'll take a look at what my arranger looks like, talk about what I did, and of course, I'll export it and then put it up to SoundCloud so we can see and listen to what really is capable, at least for my creative mind. You guys will probably be able to do stuff much, much better, but just to give you an example, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'll go through and do it myself to see what I can come up with. Last but not least, just talking about DJing in general, you need to be very cognizant of where you're performing, why you're performing, and probably the other question is just whether or not you're getting paid. So if you're going into a paid performance, you better be 100% sure that nothing is going to go wrong, that you have a backup system. Some of the things we talked about a number of videos ago. So just in case your computer dies or fails, you have a backup, you're ready to go no matter what. Also, know the venue, know who's playing after you, know if anybody's playing before you, understand what the style of the night is, what the kind of vibe of the club is, all those sorts of things you need to take into account, because just because you can go in there and you can do like crazy scratch technique, that may not be the venue or the place for it, right? So if you're getting paid, really, really be careful with that, because you don't want to piss the wrong people off and then you're never going to get another DJ gig again in your life. If you're an opening act, it's much better to have the floor empty and be playing something that the club promoter is happy with, that the headlining artist is happy with, than to go out there and like try to steal the show and go crazy and, really throw some bangers in there, because the headliner is going to be pretty pissed off, and that's the person who most of those people are coming to see. They're not really coming to see you. You're just there for kind of background. Now, let's compare that to if you're just playing like in your friend's basement and screwing around. In that situation, I say do whatever you want and don't really worry about it. If the people get that pissed off, they'll just tell you to stop playing, and that's fine. Who cares? You can go back home and you can do whatever you want. But in those situations, you're probably doing the people a favor, and I say feel free to experiment and just kind of go a little bit wild, go a little bit crazy. But if you know, again, that it's just going to be a very chill sort of night and people just want some music to groove to, then absolutely don't go in there bringing, your heaviest dubstep tracks, and don't go in there mixing in the style of like Ultra Music Festival where it's all rise, drop, rise, drop, rise, drop. You don't want to do that. You probably want to keep your transitions very long, very mellow, very chill. It's all about understanding the circumstance and place you're in for your performance. I'm never expecting to be performing like an Ultra Music Festival or like a huge type deal like that. I know that's probably never going to happen. So for that reason, I try to think and focus in the present, which is where would I be performing and what sort of tracks are going to work in that environment. Now, if you are just at home and you're screwing around, feel free to try to emulate, the huge festival DJs that you might like. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own style, and who's to say that your style is any better or worse than mine? I'm not the one to say it. Nobody is. So feel free to do what you want and just have a lot of fun with it. I just kind of want to leave you on those notes, just something to think about a little bit. And we're probably never going to talk about some of the philosophy and logic behind DJing and, talk about the powers of persuasion and how those relate to your own set, but just mull over what I just said, and chances are you'll start to understand and build logical sets. And that's what this is all about, logical sets where you're having a lot of fun and the people listening to the music are having fun as well. Thank you for tuning in to this lesson, and it'll be a few days, but I will catch you again in the next one. Thanks a lot. Take care.